Thank you so much for all your participation. It's Thursday, second hour of our show. So let's get to today's segment, 마음톡톡. Time for IOB's Mind Talk, 마음톡톡 시간입니다. 우리 오정아 원장님 와셨습니다. 원장님 안녕하십니까?
네, 안녕하세요. This is 오정아 from Chicago Therapeutic Center, 시카고 심신치유센터. 반갑습니다.
반갑습니다, 원장님. 원장님, you also spent some time in America, right? Did you take any like school yearbook photos or your even graduation photos?
Graduation.
Oh.
Yeah. But I wasn't like high school or anything at the time. But I was like middle of 30s. I was there like pretty late. And
okay. So it was like for college or like for masters.
So.
But so everybody's probably like an adult, in those photos. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you tried the AI like the 90s?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
But it will be really right.
궁금하지 않아요?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I will.
Yeah, I'm thinking about trying to get everybody here in the BFM studio, or not everybody, but some people, 비교해보려고요. Especially people that went to school in the 90s and have them like compare their actual yearbook photos with the AI generated ones.
Yeah, it will be really interesting to
재밌을
see.
것 같은데 근데 AI가 만드는 게 너무
네, realistic?
No, not realistic. No. I mean, realistic? Too realistic sometimes.
네.
But too pretty and too handsome are the results of the AI photos, right? 저도 AI 그거 하려 하면 진짜 잘생기게 나올 것 같아요. Even me, all right? So you know that it speaks a lot to how nice the AI program is. All right, well, today, Mind Talk, 마음톡톡 시간입니다. What do you have for us today?
So when we are in a romantic relationship, there are times when we agree with each other and have a good time, but there are times when we have different opinions. So let's talk about the frustrations that come from those moments.
Yeah, so continuing to talk about communication, especially amongst people in romantic relationships. So let's get to today's story.
Yes.
I've been with my partner Youngjin for over 7 years. And we faced life's ups and downs together, supporting each other through thick and thin. Recently, we have one issue that he and I have very different views on: marriage. While I've always dreamed of a traditional wedding and the idea of legally committing to one another, Youngjin has been steadfast in his belief that marriage isn't necessary to validate our love. What should I do? Okay, I see. 영진 아주 very 요즘 마인드인 것 같아요, right? There's a lot of people thinking these days that we don't have to get married, right? We could do everything the same as husband and wife does, but to have that title of Mr. and Mrs., husband and wife, isn't necessary. But let's get into this story a little bit in detail, as well as your thoughts.
Sure. Let's refer to this writer as Gia. I'm really glad that you shared your situation with us. It's clear that you and Youngjin likely have a strong and lasting bond, which is super important in any committed relationship. Talking about marriage can be tough, especially when you both see it differently. So, Minsu, what are your thoughts on Gia's situation?
So like you said, they've been together for 7 years. And it really looks like, they love each other.
Right.
7 years is a long time, right? So if you've been together for that long, their relationship is strong. But I see it a lot of the times, no matter how strong a relationship is, on the topic of marriage, if both don't see eye to eye, it never ends up well. Yeah. I've come across relationships, short relationships, long-term relationships, but whenever they arrive at the decision of marriage, those that think alike doesn't mean, oh, okay, they both agreed to get married. But even if both agree to not get married, but continue seeing each other, maybe even living with each other, those relationships are pretty strong. But if it's separate, if it's different when it comes to their view on marriage, one person wanting to get married and one person not wanting to get married, it's kind of unfortunate to say, but more often than not, it doesn't work out too well in the end, right? So hopefully that's not the case for Jia-님, but that's the kind of like the experience that I've had when I see other people with it.
I see. So when opinions clash or conflict,
네.
active listening is necessary.
Okay, active listening. What's that?
As a concept of active listening, it has roots in various communication and counseling theories and practices. While it doesn't have a single specific origin, it has evolved over time from multiple resources, including Carl Roger's client-centered therapy and humanistic psychology and so on.
Okay, so today we're covering the topic of active listening, and this is something that maybe if you find yourself, right, or know of other people that is in Chia's situation, active listening might prove useful. Right, when it comes to trying to figure out this kind of concern. So tell us more about it, please.
Active listening is not just about hearing words. It's about really getting what the speaker is saying. So how they feel and what they think. And to do this, you've got to pay full attention to the speaker. Use your words and body languages to show you are listening without interrupting or judging. So you also try to understand things from the speaker's side and say things like, I get how you feel, and ask questions that make the conversation deeper. So we talked about imago communication last week.
We did, yeah.
So there was a step, like first step was conscious dialogue, and second was like mirroring,
Yeah.
and third was the validation, and fourth was empathetic response. So this is the part of the conscious dialogue, and on top of that, ask questions, make the conversation deeper. And this is the key as well. And so, Ms. Have you? How do you approach situation with your wife when you have different opinions?
How do I approach the conversation, or what do I do when we have different opinions?
Yes.
She's right. 무조건. 무조건 우리 와이프 말이 맞습니다. But
Yeah.
I always side with her. I always side with her decisions. I support whatever she says, but I don't say no, I don't agree. But rather, you said, I guess kind of asking questions to get deeper into why, because I want to understand
All right.
why she wants to get that decision. Because I've learned very early. I've learned very early on, and many advice have come to me. Just to start off, when you guys get into an argument, just know that I'm in the wrong and she's in the right. But I know they say that as a joke, but taking that approach has helped us get over some situations. But it's not me kind of always surrendering. I do put in the effort and take the time to ask questions to see why she thinks like that. I never kind of shun any answers or decisions or thoughts that she has. Yeah, so that's how I kind of approach this situation. 와이프 말이 항상 맞는데 근데 왜 맞지? 라고 I like to kind of dive in deeper. Yeah, so asking questions is important for me.
Right, exactly. So here are some questions for Gia to consider to help her better understand her emotions on a deeper level and the challenges in her situation.
Okay, so things that Gia could keep in mind considering, maybe some or some of our listeners who might be following along, maybe if you're in this situation too, or maybe know of like a friend or family
Right.
that might be in Chia's situation, it'd be good to take on these questions.
Sure. One, are there any specific reasons from my past or upbringing that have influenced my desire for a traditional marriage? And two, what does marriage represent to me personally? Three, what fears or insecurities are tied to this issue? Four, have I discussed the long-term goals and vision for our relationship with the Youngjin? 5. What compromises or alternatives am I willing to explore? So self-reflection questions are an essential step in understanding your emotions, identifying your needs, and developing a plan to address this specific situation.
Yeah. Then 원장님, what about for maybe because this is for Chia님 as well as Youngjin, if they have a difference in opinion in marriage, they should first kind of ask themselves these questions. Then would you recommend for people, maybe for couples, if both of them agree, okay, let's get married, should we still kind of contemplate, maybe like think about these questions? If both agree to get married?
Both agree, then you don't need to talk about it that like specifically. But I think it's still you need to discuss.
Yeah.
Well, what does the marriage mean to you?
Yeah.
And,
The reason why I ask is because when me and my wife decided to get married, like we were both just very for it. But looking at those questions that you asked, that you want, people to consider or Chia to consider, I was like, how come we never how come I never asked myself this, or how come I never asked my wife this when we were getting married? It was just 너무 당연한 거라고 생각했나 봐요, 저희들은. I mean, don't get me wrong, like we don't regret it or anything, of course, but we never really took the time to ask ourselves, I guess, why we're getting married.
But it was like it seems like it was a natural step for you guys to get married, and so that's why I didn't really thought about.
But for Chia님, who has a difference in opinion on marriage with Youngjin, I think it's good to consider what she thinks, what marriage is supposed to be, and then kind of compare and contrast with what Youngjin thinks marriage is. So let's get into, I guess, things that Chia could do and consider. So what can she do?
So as I gave you self-reflective questions, you should take some time to reflect on why marriage holds significant for you. So is it the idea of having a grand wedding ceremony, a celebration, the formal legal commitment, or perhaps something else that feels truly special to you? So when you understand what's most meaningful to you, it can make it easier to have heartfelt conversation with the Youngjin and help him see your perspective more clearly.
Okay. So if it's maybe on the topic of the actual ceremony, then 결혼식을 꼭 해야 되나?
Right.
Maybe if this is something to consider, like ask yourself, if you want a big wedding, why do you want a big wedding? And if you don't want a big wedding, and just go to like a 동사무소 and just sign your name saying, we're like living together and we're married, why do you opt for that? So significance in that sense of what the act of getting married, like in terms of the 결혼식, the celebration, means to you, okay? So sorting out what marriage means is very much needed.
Right.
What you want to say?
That's true. Furthermore, think about what you want in the future, like where you see yourself in a few years or even many years from now. Ask yourself if you are okay with not getting married if it means just staying with the Youngjin. So being honest with yourself is crucial. So you know what's the most important to you and what you are willing to give up or not give up.
Okay. So it's important to be honest with yourself. But for Chia, I think it's really difficult if she doesn't want to give up Youngjin, but she always wants to get married, let's say.
Right.
But she knows Youngjin will never want to get married. I don't know. I think 너무 어려울 것 같아요.
너무
그런
어려워.
상황에서는.
네, 네.
Right? So in that kind of situation, she has to basically put Youngjin and marriage as like the two choices. Because if she chooses marriage, then she can't have it with Youngjin. But if she chooses Youngjin, then she knows she can't have marriage. Right? Oh, that's tough. That's tough. But being honest with yourself, and even if you can't choose one side, that's also important.
Right. So you and Youngjin need to have a heart-to-heart talk about why marriage is important to you. And don't forget to hear what he thinks too. Ask him questions like, what does marriage mean to you? And what worries you about it? The more you know about each other's thoughts and feelings, and the better you can figure out a solution that works for both of you.
Yeah. I think not only telling your side of the story too much and trying to force your agenda onto Youngjin, this might make him even more kind of go the other way, saying like, I'm never gonna get married, even if you think like that. So asking him questions, what he thinks, might even help you understand more, right? Okay.
Yeah. So you should explore some ways to find a middle ground that makes both of you happy. So ask yourself, is there something we can be flexible about? Instead of the traditional grand wedding, there might be other ways to show your love and commitment. So maybe think about having a special commitment ceremony where you both make promises to each other in front of loved ones, or you could even create your own partnership agreement.
Yeah. It doesn't have to say like married, right? Here in Korea, when you go to the 동사무소 or even city hall to sign those papers, it's not saying you're married. It's more of like, you're living together. And people assume if people live together, they're married. But a lot of time people just kind of, sign that and that's it. So, yeah, I guess that's the more, like these days, 생각, these days mindset. We could still be be husband and wife without being called husband and wife. So if you guys could meet in the middle, I think that is something, if both sides agree with it, both sides sacrificing a little bit, I think that could be definitely an option too. Okay.
그리고 뭐죠, 이렇게 부모님들이 자녀분들한테
네.
결혼식 해야 된다. 이렇게 조금 강요라고 해야 되나요? 권유라고 해야 되나요?
그럴 때도 많죠.
또 이렇게 하라고.
네. 조금 푸시하는 부모님들도 좀 있는 것 같아요. 왜냐면 부모님들도 I think for parents, now this is just my personal opinion, but a lot of the times for parents, it's more for like show to other people. Right? Let's say, for a lot of the parents, if they take the what do you call the people in audience at weddings? If you take those people out of the equation, if let's say nobody comes to the wedding ceremony, then some of them might think like, oh, then do we need a 결혼식 if nobody's going to come? So in that sense, then, it's mostly for show to like other people saying, this my son or my daughter is getting married. 그걸 좀 보여주기 위해서도 하는 것도 조금 있는 것 같긴 해요. Like for me, this is my own personal opinion, right? So parents forcing marriage onto people, onto like their children or to couples, this might be a factor in people not wanting to get married too. 네. Okay. Yeah. Anything else that you like to mention to Chia?
It's essential to honor each other's decisions, even if your partner, Youngjin, opinion doesn't match with yours. Getting married is just one way to say I love you and want to be with you forever.
Yeah.
So, however, there are plenty of other ways to express the same feeling, like being there for each other, supporting each other's dreams, and making each other smile. In addition, it's okay if it takes some time to sort it out.
Yeah.
The important thing is to keep talking and listening to each other with active listening.
Definitely important. So for Chia, who's been with Youngjin for 7 years, 이제 7년 사귀고 이제 그 말 나오기 시작했으면 if it's starting to come out, I think for Chia, give it some time. 7년 동안 같이 있었는데 갑자기 이제 결혼돼서 생각하니까 영진이가 no라고 하니까 바로 거기서 헤어지고 뭐 안 돼 이렇게 하면 안 될 것 같아요. 지금까지 싸운 그 7년 동안
네,
같이
너무
아까우니까요.
네.
So I think for Chia, taking the time, like you said, to talk about it, to actively listen to Youngjin, I think is very important.
Yes.
We have a couple messages coming in, people commenting about today's segment. We have Yena saying, marriage is the ultimate commitment, which is also a security in your relationship. Yeah. So people might thinking, 결혼을 안 해도 되는데 그냥 안정감을 느끼고 싶다. But I guess with Yena saying, then marriage is like kind of like the ultimate 안정감, is it not? 결혼하면 of course, like divorce can happen, but that's like the final, lock, final lock on your relationship. So maybe if both sides want security, then I guess you could talk to each other, 서로 말하면서 you could figure out that maybe getting married is an answer to security, okay, in our relationship. We have 인류의 충전수님 saying 한국에서 결혼은 집안 대집안이라 더 어려운 것 같아요. 한국에선 결혼 상대만 생각하면 되는 게 아니라 시부모님과 처가와의 관계도 중요한 문제라서요. How do you hear that a lot in your counseling sessions? It's not a problem, maybe even people before they get married. It's not so much so we have problems, but I guess the problem that, a person might see in the in-laws family.
Right.
그런 일도 좀 많아요.
네. 뭐 물론 이제 와이프랑 남편과의 갈등도 있겠지만
네.
그럼으로써 이제 그 시부모님과 며느리 사이가 또 안 좋아지기도 하고
네.
그래서 그것 때문에 아내분들이 마음의 상처가
네.
굉장히 깊어요 생각보다.
맞아요.
네.
And something like that, just the problems that could arise from in-laws, that could be enough for people to say, I don't want to experience that, so I don't want to get married, right?
네.
왜냐면 결혼 안 하면 안 겪는잖아요, right? You don't experience that if you don't get married. So, yeah. We also have 충유서님 commenting saying, I literally asked my mom, "Were you happy with that?" And she said no.
Are you happy?
So I said, then don't insist my marriage. 충전소님.
네.
Because I guess 충전소님 isn't married yet. So 충전소님 asked their mom, were you happy with that? And she was like, no. So I was like, 그러면 don't make me get married if you're not happy with that. I guess that's a way too. 그것도 한 방법이죠. 네. And listeners, these are personal opinions, not something that we want to, promote, right? 마지막으로 우리 토끼님 saying, I've been married for 3 years. Every Thursday, this counseling session is always a great help to my life. Thanks a lot,
thank
원장님.
you.
네.
Thank you for listening.
네, 맞아요. 원장님, I think very helpful. Even 결혼한 분들도 이런 질문들 한 번씩 그냥 물어보면 kind of like 중간 체크.
네.
I guess, with their marriage, what they think of it right now. I think it also can spur on kind of great conversation between husband and wife, right? Nice. 원장님, thank you so much. Another very helpful, very interesting segment you share with us today. We'll see you next week.
Sure. I will see you next week then.
네, 수고했습니다. 감사합니다.